Thank you for joining us today. Anything you hear in this podcast is not to be taken for medical advice. This podcast is for information purposes only, and should you find something interesting in the information spoken about, please consult your physician further.
I never thought you did. Okay, one more time. Okay, take 13. Can you give me in?
Sure. Take 13.
Okay.
Take 13.5.
Hello, welcome to the Broken Road Podcast. I'm in Trent. I've never had this many problems. I promise I don't make it.
We're not going to just the climate.
Okay. Hello, welcome to the Broken Road Podcast. I'm your host, Trent Peterson. Today I have Kristen Holbeck and Heather Knight with me. They're both my speech therapists from Baylor. One was on the inpatient side and one was on the outpatient side. So thank you for being here. Y'all are
thank you for having us.
We're very excited to be here.
Awesome. Y'all are super special people to me. And obviously, I think we're going to have a really good time. We laughed a lot during my experience at Baylor, so I appreciate you very much for that. Took what was a really hard time for me and made it bearable.
Yeah.
So I got some questions just to kind of keep us on base. And the first one, and y'all can kind of pick who goes first. It doesn't matter. I was thinking earlier today that really y'all are kind of a team there at that Baylor facility. I mean, it's really kind of hard to break it down the way y'all work together, but it kind of don't have your yin and yang of that facility as far as what I would say on outpatient and inpatient side. So, anyhow. Man, that could be off on that a little bit. That's the way I've looked at it since I've met both of you. So, whichever one of you would like to go first, tell me a little bit about yourself and why you chose the career path that you're on.
Well, I graduated from Texas Tech University, Reckham Tech. I got both my undergrad and my master's there. And I think initially, it's really funny, I learned about speech pathology from a neighbor across the street.
Really?
When I was a junior in high school. So after I wanted to work with people, but I didn't know what they did. So I started shadowing, and I actually got to talk to the director of the program at Texas Tech when I was like a senior in high school.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, this is the route I want to go. And then when I started getting into it, you start getting a feel for the populations you want to work for. So the cool thing about speech is they call it birth to grave. So usually in your field, you decide if I'm like more children-based, which I think they have a very special calling, very patient, or like more adult-based. And then as I went through the program, my grandpa got dementia. And I really got into the dementia population. I loved treating that because I think it's something that people don't realize can be treated. Mm-hmm. It's adults with no filters, so it's like perfect.
Right.
They also have lived in very interesting times. So just hearing talking to a World War II veteran, looking at really cool, they grew up with 9 kids using baking soda for toothpaste. So just hearing those really cool stories, really got me into that population. Then I just love neuro, stroke, TBI. I honestly forgot the question. I think I went off on a tangent.
No, I think you're still on point. The question was to tell about yourself and why you chose your career path. So I think you're right on it. I think you're dead on.
Yeah.
I mean, really. Yeah. I mean, if you still had something to it. So your grandfather, right, had dementia, and that kind of, you mentioned multiple things, but that got your interest in dealing with the older generation.
Exactly.
And which is going to lead more towards the stroke, dementia. You said it ended up being TBI.
Yes, TBI is my big passion right now. So I worked in a skilled nursing facility for about a year and a half, and I loved it, but I was still missing my younger population with the stroke and the brain injury, because you could really see great recovery and gains for that. So when I got my current job, I've been there for about 9 years. So inpatient, I think, is my place. I'm very happy there. I love it's different because you got the nail on the head. It's yin and yang. So our treatment focuses are very different depending on where the patient is at and the acuity of their illness. So I get maybe 7 to 10 days, maybe up to 20 with the patient. Heather usually gets a lot more. So our goals are very different. So, for example, if you come in and you can't swallow and you can't think, what do we prioritize?
Don't jump ahead. That question's coming.
Exactly. But
yeah.
seeing just the progress in this setting has been really great. It's very rewarding. And when we get patients that come back and validate you, like, for what you do, like, you could tell really what you love to do is rewarding.
That's awesome. What about you, Heather?
So I'm from Abilene. I went to Abilene Christian. When I left Abilene in 2009, I wanted to work with adults too. Coming out as a new grad, there's not really a whole lot of good mentorships for adult placements. And so I actually ended up taking a school position. Wrong move. I cried every single day. And it just wasn't what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to do was adult neuro. And then I got a call and did an interview. And so I started out in skilled nursing. I did that for 6 years. Again, like Kristen, I really cherish the dementia Alzheimer's population that has been in my mother's side of the family as well. And then, I just think they're underserved, I feel like, and there's a special need for those patients. Even though their goals look completely different, there's still their quality of life. So that's where I really, what I really enjoyed about that. But then I was like, I really just feel like I could push myself growth-wise. Like, I didn't want to stay in one spot forever. So then I came to Baylor in 2015. This will be my year 10, believe it or not. And then I started working long-term acute care, which was really neat. I got to do the trachs and the vents and all that kind of fun stuff. And then I did outpatient.
There for a little bit too.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed that because I got to dabble in a little bit of everything. And then I would float to inpatient if they needed help. And then that's kind of where I'm at. And now I've transitioned to doing all outpatient and then day neuro. So day neuro is different than regular outpatient. It's 6 hours a day, up to 5 days a week. They're all day, every day. During the summer, the patients call it summer camp. So think summer camp and speech therapy. So, but like Kristen, I really have found my love with neuro, especially concussions. I think that's an underserved population. People hit their head and they're like, I'm fine, and shake it off, and they'll go down the road and not getting treatment for it. And really that's a big need. And then again, with TBI and stroke, that's all we do all day, every day. And I also have a heart for our brain cancer patients. So I like doing a little bit of head and neck as well.
So before we move on to our next question, this isn't written on here, but there's something that pops up to me. And it's the same thing for me. No, it's great. But I think it's really important to note that both of you, there's a reason what drew you to that field. Then I was trying to do some research so I could actually be a little more educated about, the depths of a speech language pathologist. That's correct, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Nicely done. Good pronunciation.
But I found out, did I say that right?
Yeah.
But I found out very quickly that is a very broad field. So, I didn't really think about it. Now that I think back in school and stuff, there was a speech therapist at school.
Yeah.
I got a friend, his son's autistic. He's had a speech therapist the whole time. So there's different levels.
Right.
So it's good to hear why you're at where you're at and how you got there. That explains that a lot more for me.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to ask that question. And I think the other thing I was thinking while you were saying that is that in our current society, I have to throw my own things in, but we are in a throwaway type society, and older people are getting more, or I say less, respect than they really deserve these days.
Yeah.
Because we are such a throwaway society. It's like, okay, well, that person doesn't have any use that we can visualize. So, we're not going to worry about that person anymore. When really there is such a plethora of knowledge there in that person, and things that, if y'all are able to get them back into a spot where they can conversate, you're going to learn a lot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I've tried to listen to people for a long time. I talk a lot too, but I also try to listen, and especially to people older than me. just because you never know what you're going to learn. And it's just a lot of cool stories. So, awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. The next thing I had on here was to kind of talk a little bit about my recovery, and I give you permission to talk about my situation. I want to share that with people, and I want people to know kind of where I came from, how I got to where I'm at. And y'all were a big part of that recovery effort. So, either one of you. I obviously started with Kristen, so I think we should start with Kristen.
I think so too.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
Alrighty then.
go for it.
What kind of shape was I in when you got in there? You see a bunch of different people, how did I rank in that? And,
Very true. So I saw you the day I came back from vacation. So
Oh, wow.
I was actually pretty refreshed and pepped and
Well, that's
amped. I think I might have even because you had seen your eval was by a different speech therapist before, and then I remember getting in and you look at your schedule and who you do your chart review, and you're on my schedule, and I was like, this should be fun. And I had a student at the time. I don't know if you remember this or not.
I
but
do.
I had a student at the time.
Oh, shoot, I can't remember her name, but I loved her. She was so sweet.
Uh-huh.
Hopefully she's going on to do great. Bigger
I think she's graduating.
I do remember her, and she was very sweet.
Yes. So when you came to me, you were, we used medical terminology. I think you shared this in your first podcast. You're what we call NPO. NPO is a fancy word for nothing by mouth. And for people that are not able to eat or drink, it is a huge quality of life change. So usually when we have a patient for that, and I know that I'm going to get them for a short amount of time, because inpatient, we usually sometimes don't get you for as long, we're going to prioritize. So we prioritize dysphagia therapy or swallow therapy. And that being said, I'll usually say a lot of facts and stats. Did you know that you swallow, 500 to 700 times a day? When you have a stroke and you lose the ability to manage your own secretions, it's stuff that people take for granted. Yeah. And it's very emotional. Food is a big part of socialization. What do? You go out to dinner, you go out to drinks, you go to a family potluck. So when you came in, you were a little bit down in the dumps. I think you had swallow tests at the previous hospital. It did not go the right way. Frustrated, right? I always feel bad if the Food Network's on sometimes.
I know.
When you're in a
We could talk about how hungry
I was going to say, I like that.
I give you permission to say that. It really was bad.
That was one of the first. I think you were one of the first patients that said you had watched a dog food commercial about you said it looked appetizing.
Yeah, it was the homemade dog food.
The homemade
The
dog
farmer's
food.
dog.
Yeah, a farm to table
Yes.
dog food kind of.
Yes, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh wow, yeah, we're gonna work really hard. So for Trent particularly, we prioritized swallow. So we didn't really go into cognition or language or any of that stuff that can be dealt later on down the road. So we did a lot of different therapy techniques. So speech pathologists are trained specifically to aid in swallow rehabilitation. We can do electrode therapy. We could do thermal stim. We could do trials. That's why I think I was your favorite person, even more than Heather. Of food.
It
Supposed to say that. I said it.
You said the quiet part out loud.
I just said it out loud.
It was
So it's
supposed to
gonna
be a
subtle
wink and nod.
We can nod.
That's okay.
But we can do trials, kind of building up some of those endurance, and then usually when you're ready, we want to send you for some kind of swallow test. So a lot of people don't know there's two different swallow tests people can take. There's what we call a modified barium swallow study, which is under fluoro, and it's kind of like a video x-ray. So if you ever had an x-ray of your hand or arm, it's not fun.
No.
Or the FEES, which is a camera that actually goes through your nose and into your throat.
Which was also not fun, but was really amazing to see that.
Exactly. So I remember panicking a little bit because we had gotten your discharge date, and I was like, I want to have him do a study before we go. And you had a FEES before, and then you also had some voice stuff. So that was probably the best route to take for that particular swallow study. And I do remember what you had? What was the first meal you ate? Well, we did it. We were very emotional with it, right? We're cheering you on.
Oh yeah,
got
right
down,
now
you were-
I'm kind of having a hard time.
I was about to say you were
So
so
you-
nervous because you had so many failed swallow studies before. You had the peg tube. We had been working so hard, me zapping you and things like that. And I just remember I was looking. I was like, it's looking good.
Jello. Or did we do how? Because I wanted Reese's. I mean, there was a couple
Yes.
things.
So
that
your
I really
first
wanted.
meal, and I to this day, is what I remember about you because I can't look at pancakes.
Oh,
I can't look at pancakes anymore and not think of you, Trent.
Oh
So
my
I ordered a short stack. I'm like, what are some things that soft things that you can eat or try? And we ordered you a plate of pancakes slathered in butter and syrup after you passed your test. We cut it really small,
thank you so
and then
much.
you ate it, and it was
That's
great.
awesome.
Yeah,
Oh.
it was. I mean, there
That's
was a
so great.
victory in that. It's really hard to describe how that felt. I just didn't know how much.
Yeah.
From the acute hospital till you passed your swallow study, how long of time was that?
So it's weird. It's, we've talked about it's pretty biblical in our world, but 40 days exactly.
No.
40 days,
Was it
so
40 days? Yeah.
to the day?
That's why I
It
have
was 40
41
days
tattooed.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
and that's listed in the Bible so many times. But yeah, it was 40
Yeah.
days. We actually ran that time and looked at it, and I kept saying it, and then my dad's like, "You realize that means something, right?" I
was
didn't
incredible.
really think
Wow.
about it that
That
way.
is-
But anyways, yeah.
Okay.
So 40 days.
Okay. Wow.
40 days. I can't remember my speech therapist's name from Texas Health, but I'm pretty sure we both cried together too whenever I couldn't pass my modified
Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
swallow test.
It gets emotional for us too because we want that so bad for our patients.
I teared up during yours.
You
We had
did.
a big hug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
That was
it's-
good. It was like one of the
Life-changing
Yeah.
thing for me.
Oh yeah.
Something that'll, for us, it's something that we all have things we share.
Yeah,
But for us, it's something we
yeah.
will always share.
And then I tried to
I
poison
will
him by
never
recommending guacamole or something because you're allergic to avocado.
I had, I just had no idea that was such an important part of life. You take it for granted.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Multiple
perspective.
things as time goes on.
Yeah.
But that's part of why I was really looking forward to this because that was such a big part of my recovery and probably it was a bummer not being able to see too,
Yeah.
Dr. Collins
Oh,
said
gosh,
he would
yeah.
like to come on.
Yeah.
So there was some stuff with that, but I think I probably could have dealt with that easier than I could not being able to swallow.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because you do forget about the saliva and all the other things that go along with it, the swallowing in general.
Yeah.
So then you're sitting there, yes.
Yes.
Anyhow.
And you brushed your teeth like a record amount of times, I think. In that particular setting.
Oh, man.
Which is a
Yeah,
requirement for water protocols in all hospitals. Oral care is very important. That's what we look at the camera, right? Oral
Yes.
care is very important for heart health and
It
for
is.
swallowing.
It's
very
important enough that they will wake you up at 2 o'clock in the morning because that's what time normal people get up and brush their teeth when they're dead asleep. And then 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock. Kristen obviously was not there for that, but the nursing staff did come in to let me know I needed to wake up to brush my teeth, and I'd let them know how I felt about that. It was not a very I wasn't a very fun patient to start with. I did grow into it, but
But to be fair, I will say, in an inpatient rehab setting, one of my favorite things about it is we get patients the acuity level. So I think it's one of the most emotional for most patients because you're learning how your brain is different and how my swallow is different. How am I going to function at this level? So that's kind of what I like about the education piece of it. But it's very emotional too. Like patients that come in that can't talk. It's just, yeah.
So that kind of leads somewhat into the next question that I had here.
But you got to talk about her day neuro with you if you want to do that still. No?
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
And this is where Heather's like, come on. I'm so sorry.
We were going to say, we were cognition. I had you.
Well, that's both of them cognitive stuff. Thank you for the backup there.
But we're going with the questions, so put your finger on it.
Because I got some stuff. Yeah, no, I'm good. We're gonna
Highlight,
on that question.
reread.
I was jumping ahead. So, Heather, yes, what did you have to do? Well, I mean, it is kind of part of the second question, was how y'all work together.
Yeah.
Is what I was going to say.
Fair enough.
On me.
Yeah.
You know, so, and that's what I said. You two are like a team at Baylor. What are some of the things you have done to try and make the process of recovery between inpatient and outpatient work together? Is what I was kind of getting to. So, you carried the torch.
Okay.
So,
No, you're fine. You're
I
fine.
did almost get
No,
that,
you're
but I
fine.
was
You're
leading
fine.
that.
Well, when you came to us, I'm trying to even think. Were you on a walker?
Yes.
Yeah, you were on a walker.
No, I had two
You're using
canes.
something. Okay, yeah.
Walking
Oh, like
stick.
the ski pole thing.
Yes, I remember that now.
I got to that before I left, and that was Nelson's
Yes.
goal, was to get me
Right.
off of the walk.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
so, I mean, we came in kind of like weeble wobbling. Our vision was messed up. You know, but
still
you were, yeah. So, but you know, from a, like what I call like functional standpoint from cognition, you were doing pretty well, right? We got like a range of people, like Kristen saying, people that can't even do basic communication all the way up to, I would say, you know, where you were at coming in. However, you know, there's those things that we kind of fly under the radar because we're like, oh, you know, he's doing really well. But there are some things that we needed to address. Like, I know we worked on a lot of memory. People don't realize, like, so cognitive skills is a big umbrella term for, we've got memory, executive function, which is those higher level thinking skills. So processing speed, problem solving, can I manage my time? Am I aware of what I'm doing and how to correct it? So all of those skills are vital to be able to get back to work, get back to driving, manage your finances, manage your medications. Because, like, you know, up until that point, there's a nurse doing it for you, right? And then you go home and then your family helps you. And so,
which is a whole nother side to this field.
Yeah.
That I didn't realize, and that most people don't. So, I mean, that's why I keep mentioning that y'all are yin and yang.
Yeah. No, and I always tell Kristen, like, I like dysphagia. I don't love dysphagia. I love cognition. So I think we're a good match. Like, I'm like, okay, Kristen, you go fix their swallow and I'll go fix whatever cognitively is going on with them. So that's what I enjoy. But yeah. And too, like, even I mentioned the vision, because that impacts like how quickly you're looking at things and you're being able to see things correctly. So like visually processing information was hard for you. Like it would take you a while to be able to look at something and you're like, I don't know if I'm seeing something right. So again, that vision is a huge component, and then just being able to think fast, right? I think a lot of misconception about like driving in regards to like processing speed is people are like, oh, I've been driving all my life. I can just get back in my truck, driving all my life. And I'm like, well, can we get in your truck? Can we look out the mirrors? Can we think quick? Can we react to things, right? So like those are the kind of speech OT overlap of working on, again, those thinking skills to be able to get back to doing those things. I know another thing that you had I mentioned, like your voice. You felt like you weren't getting enough breath support.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Very gravelly sounding.
Right.
I mean, it's still, I still have it if I talk too loud, but it has smoothed out quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it was pretty significant when it was first up.
I remember both of you asking me, hey, did you talk like this before?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. Everybody else says probably not.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, even just working on that breath support, because people don't realize, that it takes breath support to be able to talk. We don't just move our vocal folds. We, have to work on strengthening the diaphragm.
The loss of the breath support when you have a stroke. A lot of it's. How does that work?
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of things that we could look at. Is I know a lot of times, like when patients are on trachs for extended amount of time, they're not breathing on their own, right? Okay. They're not utilizing that diaphragm. So if the muscles, it's just like if you're not using muscles to walk, right? You're going to be deconditioned. So it's working on improving that overall strength. But sometimes too, like where it depends on where the lesion is. Well, lesion is just a site where the stroke happened. it can cause voice problems. So, and affect your vocal quality and being able to coordinate.
The way that those muscles work, the whole bit.
Because you have to coordinate your breathing and your speech. It's not just, it works as a system.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, that's a lot of what we worked on with you. And I feel like you made huge gains. I mean, huge gains. You were, by the time you left us, you were back to driving, right?
I finished the driving test 2 days before I graduated.
Yeah. So that was huge. And then, we worked on things like being able to, go back to your business. I know that was a huge goal of yours. So, I'd say overall with your time there, our chunk was focusing on what function can we get back to?
And unfortunately, I don't think we ever got me back to a spot, and I'm still not there where I can go to work. I've tried a couple of times, but I don't think, there's just other things, there's other factors that have gone into that, even that I don't know that could ever be fixed after the stroke.
Yeah.
It's like priorities change, but I also don't stay calm in those situations anymore. That I used to be good with like 20,000 things going on at once, and somebody yelling at me over here and yelling at somebody on this side. And now it's like I try to avoid all of that conflict. It's like constantly wanting to keep my, everything as smooth as I can. Just a smooth running machine, I don't want to ever have to go through that again.
Sure.
But I laughed a couple of times when you were saying it, because I remember thinking, I have my stuff together, I'm good. And you had me doing that big Sudoku thing.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I'm done. And you went, oh, yeah, you're done. I was like, yes, I'm done. It's like my favorite thing to do. I love Sudoku.
Oh, my gosh, I love it.
And he said, you're done, huh? Well, why don't you look at it again? I look at it, I'm like, it's perfect, it's fine. He said, why don't you look at it again?
Look at it again. Hey, you helped me make that.
The reality was I really had it messed up pretty good.
Yeah.
And that was an eye-opener for me, that I wasn't everything I thought I was on that end, too.
Yeah.
That was probably the first time I realized that I actually had some cognitive issues that little thing made that stick out really well.
Right.
So I'm like, oh.
And it's interesting, like, with going from inpatient to, day neuro and outpatient is you don't really get to see those things, in inpatient. You're just focusing on, like you said, the basics. Can we dress? Can we eat? And then
can we get you home?
Can we get you home? And then it's like,
Meet them, treat them, street them.
Yeah. Innocence, yes.
I realize it. I know that y'all feel that way this time, but in case, I know that that's something that's said in the industry.
But yeah.
Especially in the insurance, which we are going to have a podcast over insurance. Y'all don't have to talk about it, because I got somebody, we're probably going to blur her face out, but I'm going to let her just go to town.
Or face like the black over the eyes.
And you can probably imagine who it is. So, somebody that has to deal with them very often.
Oh, man.
But that's more of the insurance thing. I was just playing. I said that. Meet them, treat them.
Exactly.
Yeah. But y'all didn't take that approach with me whatsoever. I felt love the whole time. And, I think, and I've told many people, that it takes a really special person to do it. Really. I mean, like, there's just no way.
Well, if we could have kept you forever.
Really hard things. I wonder, it's in one of the questions, I think. It's actually, this is the next question. On here, I just said, as therapists, you deal with trauma on a daily basis. How do you separate this from your personal life? And how do you separate your personal life from work? Because I say it all the time. Everybody has problems. Everybody's messed up. I mean, the broken road, the reason why I did that is because I really think we're all kind of broken. Yeah. And it's just kind of, with this life, is about kind of fixing it along the way. Hopefully you got some good people in your life to help you. And but anyways, so the question is, how do you, you have to turn the switch off, I would imagine, almost sometimes,
I would say, like, for me, like, you have to have healthy boundaries, right? Like, I don't, obviously with our line of work, you can't really take work home, which is, a good thing. But I don't, like, stress over things that I have no control over, right? I mean, it's just, I can do what I can do at work, and then I go home and start it over again. So I kind of just compartpolize like that. Yeah. I mean, you have to.
Same as the emergency medical services do, or firemen, or policemen. I mean, you do have to.
You just have to. I mean, really
find a place for that,
for your own sanity. I mean, it's a stressful job.
Yeah.
You know, people come to you and like in this like panic mode of like fix me, you know what I mean? And you're like, if I give you 100% at work, and then I have to like refill my cup, right?
Absolutely.
If I don't refill my cup, then I can't pour into you. And so that's kind of how I look at it. But like from like my own personal issues, I was thinking about this earlier, I'm not getting emotional.
I got tissues, but I do it because I'm proud.
Yeah. No,
Hey!
I just walked in.
I say we can make it a quad.
Yeah. No, but yeah, I mean the last 6 years were probably the worst time of my life. Just a lot of grief, a lot of loss, and I feel for you guys on this page, because it's hard getting up in the morning. It's hard doing the same thing over and over and over, and you're like, God, why? Like, I'm doing the same thing and I'm getting no changes. You know what I mean? Like, you get that feeling. It's just hard to put into words. But I remember when I was going through those hard times, like I would just cry in my office, and then I'd see a patient. Oh, puppy dog. And then I'd cry in my office, and I'd see a patient. And my mom really was like, Heather, they need you. And that was what got me through those hard times was, they were, and she was right. She's like, you can, choose to focus on your problems, or you can choose to focus on somebody else. And
you need some love.
I needed some love.
He's doing his job right there. That's what he's for.
He's so sweet. But yeah, and I actually, there was a quote, I think, from Joyce Meyer. She said something to the extent of, like, when you're hurting, helping others. That's what you need to do, is go help other people. And so I think that was my driving point all those years. And, it still is. And then I have to always, like, put in perspective, things could be worse. Things could be worse. It's all about perspective.
When you see stuff that's worse every day, and that's kind of why I wanted to ask that question. I was, I appreciate you being honest about it, because everybody has stuff that they deal with all the time,
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, how do you have personal issues and come into that and be able to, I mean, it's hard. I can only imagine on y'all's end too.
Yeah.
There's days when you just don't want to.
I will say too, I think it's something that I learned and I'm continuing to learn with, because I didn't start out being able to compartmentalize. I think when you're really young, you just want to help people, like you're ready to go.
Yep.
But then you're also like sacrificing. Sometimes in your sessions, I'm very big on like energy. I can put a lot of energy like into a session, but I can tell with some more intensive patients if I am drained when I get home. I'm pretty good about shutting off. If I've got family stuff going on, I'm pretty good about shutting that off when I'm working. Although Heather has seen me cry a few times this year. I've had a lot of other stuff too go on. But just like she said, you can cry and then you rally.
You cry and rally.
And then you cry and then you rally and then you're good to go. But it's that kind of that separation. But also, like, I love also looking at treating patients. Like, what if this was my dad?
Yeah.
How would I like him to be treated? What if this was my brother? And I think when I have bad days, we get cards from patients, right? Patients write cards. I'll actually go through. I keep all my cards. I'll go through and I'll read them. I'm like, oh, that's kind of like that's.
You remember those people?
This is why I do what I do.
Yeah.
Because you'll have even patients. Inpatients a little bit different because we get like a mix. It's not just TBI and brain injury.
Right.
I still get my dementia patients. I get my hip patients, knee patient, back patient, head and neck cancer patient. Like I get a good variety.
There was actually a lady up there when I went up there the other day that remembered me from her first hip replacement or whatever it is.
Oh,
wow. She goes, you're much more handsome when your beard's trimmed up.
Oh my gosh.
That's what I said, Amber, my wife Amber would say the same thing. But she totally remembered me from the last time, which I thought was neat. And I'm, y'all get to
And I have
see
Hermit
fun
Sunday.
people like that all the time.
Yeah.
Hermit Sunday
Yeah, that's for sure.
is my thing. I don't talk to anybody for 24 hours. I don't even talk to my parent. Well, you can text me. Like, I might text me. I don't want me to talk to anybody.
It's just like pajamas, couch potato, blanket.
We're streaming multiple
movie.
avenues. We're doing laundry. We're eating really bad food, for 24 hours, and then I'm ready to go on Monday. If I don't get a Herman day, it's rough.
That's rough.
But yeah, that's my recharge day
Yeah.
for me, and it works out pretty well. But it took me a while to find the balance, and I think you continue to find it too. And I think it's also who you work with. Right.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
a reason why people work in certain settings or with certain places for a long amount of time. I've known Heather for 9 years.
Well, I told Dad multiple times, and I don't know if I've said this on the podcast before, but him and I have talked a bunch. And I looked to him for a lot of spiritual guidance, but I told him that there was just something about that place, something different than anywhere I've been before, and the people and the way the people are together. And he said, I can tell you what it is. Really easy. He said, God's in that place. He said, there's just no doubt that, that work's being done there, and it's being done through y'all. So
It's such a good culture. Upstairs and downstairs. Like, I've worked at a ton of places. I joke because it's my 10th year at the same place. And I say that because we're used to just hopping around. Like, therapists just hop around, and that's just what we do. But it is a special place, and the people there make the culture.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. When you can feel it even through the patients. So, I felt it upstairs. There was something, and then, Gary came in. That's part of the reason that pushed me to want to be. My whole experience pushed me to want to be in the peer mentorship program, and do this. This is all therapy for me to kind of work through stuff that I'm always going to deal with. I mean, that's not something that just goes away. When you have a stroke, I had no idea. So I had no empathy for anybody that was, I'm like, suck it. It's not that bad. Well, now I realize I'm like, whoa, and that little dog is a game changer for me some days. I'm just like, all I need is just that, be able to pet him and, okay, I'm all right for a minute.
I had, a former patient come up to me, and this is the first time I've ever had a patient say that the stroke was the best thing that had ever happened to her.
I would never. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it. I honestly wouldn't. Amber and I have talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
Amber's here. She's out of the picture still, but her and I have talked about it a ton. It's and I want to be 100% back to who I was before, but at the same time, I'm afraid that I will distance myself. If I get that back, I will forget what I've learned. Like, get back into that same rhythm, and selfishness, things like that kind of take over. You just kind of forget and get back into a role of everyday rhythm, and, I don't want that. So, I'm kind of okay with a little, I prefer stuff just to go away.
Yeah.
But I'm also, I'm at peace with dealing with it now, and some of the things, little bit of vestibular issues that I'm having, and vision, which is still saying that maybe I can get some of that fixed now that I've gotten rid of some of the other deals. I was talking to Amanda and Jeremy the other day, and Amanda's like, hey, you see that? Of course, she's moving my head and doing all kinds of weird stuff to me, but, they said there may be hope on that, but there's certain things that I'm good with it. It did change my life for the better, and I feel like I'm right where I'm supposed to be. So
Absolutely.
It is what it is.
Absolutely.
I've started now I'll tell patients like one day at a time.
Yeah.
I've now really understood taking it one day. Like, when you project so much in the future, you miss out on
on the moment.
really cool.
Absolutely,
I was
100%.
going to say, I feel like if you look too far back, depression's going to set in, right? I used to be like this.
Yeah.
And then looking too far forward gets you anxious. So staying in that present moment is like key. And I even, tell some patients, let's just take it 30 minutes by 30 minutes, from one session, because that's how, Dana was broken up. And because it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with.
It is, yeah, and everybody. Back to that, I mean, there was multiple. As I got better, then I started seeing therapists that were having. I could tell when they were having a rough day, and I'm not going to mention names, but there was one, and I just said, "You can tell me too. I'm good, y'all have all been here for me." And
and I have done that.
We sat there and cried for a minute, together, and kind of hashed it out, and moved on, and went through the day. It was what it was. I was having a hard time too. Anyways, yeah. So I do agree with that. Yeah, you do miss it if you're not in the moment. Things like stroke and dealing with the TBI kind of pulls all that together for you. You can't think. I can't think that far ahead now. If I do, I kind of, wears me out, and I'm like, oh, and it is stressful and a little bit frustrating. The amount of things I could do before. That's one of the things Amber knows. Like, I feel like I'm constantly kind of like I have to be careful because I feel like I'm racing against this clock now. Knowing that I thought I was invincible, kind of had that feeling for the stroke, So once you realize that that's not there, and I got a lot of friends and people I'm still dealing with, they're just like, hey, it's fine, just get back to it. I'm like, man, you have no idea, dude. I'm sorry. It's not. But anyways. Yeah. Very appreciative always. And I was mentioning Gary was part of it. I mean, he made me get up and go. All of you did. I mean, it's kind of like, and we had a lot of laughs.
We sure did.
Oh, of course.
We
had to have about 5 takes to get our giggles out before just starting.
Yeah, we were 13 takes before we even started the podcast.
Oh yeah.
Stop laughing.
We'll save those for the blooper moments. I had I don't know how many times, but yes, at one point she did say take 13 because
But I think laughing is one of the most important things to do.
Gosh,
and I'm like always unapologetically myself in a session.
Yeah.
I'm like nobody wants to be here, but let's make the best of it and let's kind of take it one day at a time. I do wallow days. I usually let a patient have one wallow day because they are allowed to process it, and I think it's healthy. But after that,
just keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah, and I didn't get it at first. Whenever I was an inpatient, everybody's coming in and like, will not let me sleep. That's all I wanted to do.
Oh gosh,
sleep. Amber's like, they're trying to help you, babe. I was like, I just want them to leave me alone. This didn't happen to me. I'm not going to do that.
Like the teeth brushing.
We didn't talk about it. I think I think friends teeth. Yeah. And to be fair, you shouldn't probably have been, but they were just following orders.
Yeah.
Oh
man, it's rough.
That was rough. Yeah.
But there's that. I mean, I was appreciative that y'all did push, even in outpatient too. It was a constant, even on the hard days. It's like, okay, we still have goals that we got to meet. For me, I'm a goal-driven person, so when I'm given a goal or I have a goal and I can see it, and someone's there to guide me along the way and show me that it's achievable, then I'm going to do everything I can to try to get there. So.
I forgot you did that. Like even when we would do your dysphagia therapy upstairs, we had a goal of number of swallows you were going to give me before I quit, and you always reached it.
Yeah.
I'm a goal-driven person.
Yeah.
I think it helped with my recovery. I'm looking forward to the peer mentorship program because I really, I realize there's a certain way I'm going to have to be too, and I'm going to deal with some things that are probably tough for me going through that. But I want to go in and do, what y'all did for me, for somebody else, and motivate them and say, hey, look, you can sit here and be sad and roll over and turn away from me, but it's not going to change what you have to deal with later this afternoon, tomorrow, the next day after that. I mean, so do you just lay there and continue to be in that state, or try to get up and get better?
Yeah.
Well, and it does make a difference when I think you are able to talk to someone that has been through it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One of the favorite groups I lead upstairs is one of the it's like a stroke group that I do education with. So the only people allowed in that group are people that had a stroke, and like the camaraderie, you can just kind of see like the walls people sometimes have come down a little bit when they're able to share. It's pretty magical.
And it's pretty hard to explain that. There's a lot of things I didn't get Amber knows, I was very uncomfortable being in a hospital,
Yep.
being around somebody that was disabled. Now I feel way more comfortable in that setting than I do just in the regular world. So,
I think to look at that moment as an opportunity, right? Like you've got a certain amount of time that you can spend here. This you need to look at as an opportunity to let us get you in the best place you can before you head out the door.
I think that's probably one of the most disheartening things I see with like day neuro is you get your Trents like super motivated, let's go, anything and everything, I'm making the most of every opportunity, and then you get these other patients that are just I think they're in that zone of like they can't pull themselves out and they're not using the resources that we give them. And I always say we can give you the tools in the world, but you have to use them, because if you're not, then I can't force you to do that. Right? You've got to have that some level of self-motivation to say, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do this. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. It is tiring. I mean, y'all poor things. Every morning y'all are like, oh God, here's the same side of people again. What do you make me do today? I mean, it's just the same like little rat race. But it's like there's no choice. You just got to make, like you said, an opportunity of it and run with it.
Yes. No,
absolutely. Yeah.
It's like mindset.
Absolutely.
It makes a big difference.
Well, I can imagine that it rolls through different groups too. With y'all seeing that rollover, especially in outpatient, because everybody's so close up there. It's different in inpatient. You do a lot of work in your room, then you go to the gym, and then you're back in your room. In outpatient, you're there. You have a room. If you're having a bad day, you can go off for a minute, but you're still going back out there with everybody. So I can only imagine that. When you have,
you can't you can hide.
I feel like we had a pretty eclectic and energy-filled group whenever I was there. And I don't know how often that happens, but I can imagine that it doesn't take but a couple people in that mode to kind of set that mode for everybody. So you have to be really careful with that as well.
Yeah. It's contagious.
It's called mood matching. It's a real thing.
What is it called?
Mood matching.
Mood matching.
Yeah.
I mean, I had bad days, but my biggest thing, and still is now with that whole group that I went to therapy with, we have our own chat, and I send something for sure on Mondays, but I try to almost every day a little something. But Motivation Monday, now that's on the all our social media too, but I always send something I think's good for that week, and I'm not going to say a name, but she's going to be on this podcast.
Okay.
Fair enough.
And you'll know I'm talking about when I say she's a smart butt and she's got attitude. But I put a post on there, a thing on there one day, a motivational thing that said something about getting up and walking or something. It was along those lines, and she goes, "Yeah, that's an awesome motivational thing, but I'm not sure if I'm getting up and walking anywhere right now." Fair enough. Lesson learned, and note taken.
But I love that you all took that opportunity to get to know one another, and that's what we say. And Day Neuro is so unique in that you're in the same room with people that have been through the same experience. Now there's a different diagnoses, and maybe somebody has vision going on, though somebody else has got aphasia going on, but you share that in common. And it's so important for community. And that's why I started, the Day Neuro Peer Mentorship. Is I had a patient that was leading a Bible study, and I was just sitting there wheels turning, and they really, really got, they loved it. And I was like, we could do something with this. And I call it the Chit Chat Club. Don't have a better name for it, but that's what it is now. So, and it's been running for 3 years. And so, and I get emails back and feedback all the time from former patients. They're like, I think I got more out of that helping somebody else, maybe than even the current patients did. But they'll tell me the same thing. They're like, "Hey, I want so and so to come back. Can you ask so and so to come back next month?" I'm like, so it's just really cool. It's cool culture built.
And that's kind of one of my goals right now, that I've told everybody, and with the Broken Road Project, is eventually to build a big enough community where whenever, and I'm looking at it really big. Maybe it doesn't go that far. I hope it does. It's a goal. I set big goals and try to reach them. But that I can just call somebody in another state and say, "Hey, I talked to this therapist the other day. There's a person, I realize there's some fine lines on this, but there's somebody having a hard time,
Sure.
or this person's been released,
Yeah.
and they've reached out for help,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. If they're
Right.
reaching out, I mean, there's certain ways that this can be done.
Yeah.
I'm still working through and learning about all of it.
Good problem solving skills.
Yes.
Yes, I'll be
Excellent,
working on
excellent
it.
job.
But the hope is, that I'm able to call somebody and say, hey, I got somebody over here. Would you have time to just go sit and visit with them?
Yeah.
They're at home. I got this. There's this, for instance, a 70-year-old lady that's, her family's doesn't live there. She's by herself. Just needs somebody to sit with her. I think those things are huge for anybody. And I just use that as an example because I don't. That's just what come to me. But that would be my hope for the Bretton Road Project. Absolutely. Is that not necessarily when I say therapist, I mean anybody that watches it or that's on it. It may be their aunt or their grandma, or like, hey, I don't even know, or their dad or their brother. I mean, whatever. And if they know that they have that as a resource, and they say, hey, I don't know how to deal with this. I don't even know what to do.
Yeah.
We don't have money for therapy, and maybe hopefully we'll be able to help with some of that too. But anyways, that's all those are goals. I don't want anybody to feel alone, and that's probably, it's part of it. To me, it was. I mean, it's like hard to explain that feeling of loneliness.
Yeah.
When you lose everything that,
Yeah.
that you've known.
Yeah.
I have another one on here. We kind of went over quite a bit right there, and we're getting close to an hour, but we got some time still.
You did get speech therapists on the podcast. We can.
It could be a 3-hour
podcast. For a living.
As
You're
long
gonna
as
have
I'm
to
not
rein it
holding-
in a little bit.
As long as I'm not holding you up, I'm good with going as long as you want. I always enjoy visiting with both of you. So I had a note on here, and it says well, let me just read it so I can just say it. Okay, I mean, we were kind of going there. So I do, I'm sorry, I'm leading into it without even, I don't even need these notes. Throw this thing out.
We don't need these notes.
Okay.
But we appreciate the compensatory strategy
Right.
of this podcast.
Okay. I do consider.
Here we go.
We did a lot of this. Yeah. It's fine. I love laughing when you both.
I do too.
I consider both of y'all part of my family after going through this whole day.
Yeah.
So, how important is the support community we are building, in your opinion, and how can we make it better for survivors? And I think we start with you, Heather. You just were talking about
So within the Day Neuro program, we do the Chit Chat Club. We do it once a month. I think it's the third Friday of the month, and we kind of schedule that out. So again, that's it's just really informal. I didn't want it to be labeled as like a support group, because I feel like when people say support groups, like, I don't know, it gets this like vibe of I'm helpless. Like I need help. Like, you know what I mean? Like
right.
It gets this. It's like, I feel like sometimes it's like when people say I'm going to therapy. I don't want them to know I'm going to therapy. You know what I mean? Like psychological or like rehab therapy, right? So I wanted it to be something just
Stigma.
Yeah. And I didn't want the patients to feel like, oh, I'm having to sit and be in a support group. So that's why I wanted it. It's another reason why it's called Chit Chat Club. I just threw caution to the wind, was like, whatever's. But I think that's important. And we've had so many people just share their story. And even just like you said, even just hearing somebody else's story, it can change you. And you're like, oh my gosh. And it builds, just again, that perspective and knowing that you're not alone. Because I think a lot of times you feel like you are the only one that's going through this. And it is, like you kind of touched on, it's very isolating, especially with our patients with communication disorders that can't talk, they can't find their words, they have to use devices to be able to communicate. I mean, that's an isolation in itself.
A huge thing that I noticed, I realized that I never realized before, is that just because you can't talk or you can't talk right doesn't mean you're not still that person.
Yeah,
inside of you.
totally.
And like I said, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's the truth. I discounted a lot of people that I would give, all of my time to now.
Yeah.
To sit there as long as it takes for them to get what they're trying to tell me out.
Right.
Because probably one of my biggest fears was getting locked in when it first happened. And I told Amber, I was like, honestly, golly, I don't know. I was very afraid of that. I mean, so afraid. So,
for sure. Yeah.
I think the fear of that kind of opened up my eyes once I got out of the bed, and I started moving around and seeing other people. I'm like, oh, yeah, they're still in there. They just can't get out, which is so special when they'll do. And I've seen it, without, I know we can't talk names, but I've seen y'all do some amazing things with other patients. And in everything I've read, that's been last 20 years has been a huge change in the way that neuroplasticity and all of that is looked at compared to before. So if you look at a stroke patient from that time frame of 20 years, whatever they experienced during the rehab that they experienced during the acute phase, from what I've read about, is as far as they ever get. When, some of the things that seemed so, for lack of a better word, dumb to me that we did. I mean, I was just like, this is so dumb.
Elementary.
Yes, I mean,
I get that all the time.
Oh, we get that all the time.
Why am I in school?
Yes.
Yeah. All the time.
But as time went on, it started making more sense, and it still makes sense to me now.
Yeah.
I do it. I still carry some of those same practices now outside of therapy to keep myself sharp, and I think everybody could benefit from it, stroke or not.
Yeah.
On some of the exercises we
I
did.
think too, with circling back to community, it's important to provide education to the community, because like you said, if you're not around it all the time, you just don't know. And then a lot of times, they think, oh, this person can't talk. It's because of lack of intelligence. It doesn't have anything to do with intelligence, right? It's that rewiring or the neuroplasticity of those nerves regenerating. But I think education is so important, because even my mom the other day, she was like, so how is taking patients to Target? What speech therapy? And I was like, oh Lord, here we go. So I went down the gamut of okay, well, they've got to use divided attention. They've got to scan the store, working on money management. And she was like, oh, but people don't know that.
I didn't care why we were going. I was just like, hey,
Trent was down a clown. He's like, hell yeah, we're going to Target.
Yeah, I don't even like going shopping, but we're
he wasn't asking any questions.
Yeah, I don't care why we're going. Let's just go.
And we are able to do outings upstairs also, so it's really interesting, because we actually had a patient that went down today neuro. We did an outing in the community, and it is when you're in that acute phase, we really limit the amount of what we're looking at with busy stores. Or it's that wake up call, like you said that you're going to go to Target. Well, buckle up.
Let's go.
Let's go. And then you have the car, and you're like, how long you did? They're like, they're like, it was a lot. I was like,
riding to therapy every day. That distance.
I remember you telling me that.
Amber knew it. Everybody was my family were very tolerant of me. But I was that person, it was constantly felt like we were running into people and cars were going to run into us. I mean, I was better off just closing my eyes and
laying back.
He's always been a bit of a backseat driver, so it was times 100 whenever he was in the passenger seat, and it's like, calm down, we're okay. I got this. I got you. I got this.
We like to use the term exacerbated.
Yeah,
someone can get exacerbated.
That's a perfect word. It's a perfect word
and
for
we
it.
still haven't really gone, other than our restaurant, we haven't done some of the things that we used to do. He's not ready for a concert. He's
right,
not
that's
ready
what I'm
for
saying.
a party with a bunch of kids,
Yeah.
a bunch of people, because we missed a 50th birthday party. Well, he did.
I've missed quite a few things that normally I would have not missed in the world, but I just don't think
they're
I'm
going to be
ready.
there for when you're ready, but,
I went to Tractor Supply the other day, so I haven't shopped very much and going grocery shopping. I've never
Did you get baby chips?
Your baby chips?
No, my mom got that. She has another place she goes for that. No,
He was
I was
never
going with
really a
Dad.
store goer, though.
Yeah.
But I went with Dad to go look at something, and of course, he wants to look at this and he wants to look at that, wants to look at this. Well, I get like halfway through, and I still have problems with the left side of my peripheral, my left side. If I look hard this way, and that's what they're hoping they can fix. But anyhow, he's like, well, let's walk over here. And then we're going to walk over there. And I'm walking, and I said, well, I got to go to the restroom. So I'm walking, and there's just so much visual stimulation. Golly, it was overwhelming. And I was almost worn out and almost nauseous. By the time I finally got back to him, I said, hey, Dad, you mind if we just go ahead and go? He said, are you all right? I said, I am right this second, but I'm on my way down really quick. So it was an eye-opener. So I can only imagine that you see that somebody thinking that they're totally prepared to conquer the world, and they're like, oh,
sure, yeah.
And then they get out there, and you're like, whoa.
It's called humility. We teach humility in rehab.
It's a hard lesson.
That's I would never. That's why I don't want to change. I wouldn't change what I went through.
Yeah.
Being humble is probably one of the best things that ever. Being humble, best things that ever happened.
Yeah.
I have so much more love for people and time, and realize that, man, you can hurry up everything you want in the world, but time's going to take it from you eventually. So, that day by day thing you were talking about, both of you, and that's huge.
And celebrating the small things. I think that's what people take for granted. What I like in inpatient rehab is I get to see a patient say their first word.
Yeah.
And then they go down to Heather and they're talking like in full-blown sentences after a while. Like it's like those really small victories that make the biggest difference in someone's day. It not only makes their day, it makes my day. Let's be honest. Like we've been working hard for it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And again, I do think stroke, brain injury, and even dementia are some of the neatest people I've had the pleasure of getting to know on different walks of life.
Oh yeah.
So we learn just as much from y'all as y'all do us is the big kicker.
Yeah.
And why we do what we do.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, that's why we're doing this. I mean, it's to raise awareness. People need to know.
Yeah.
I've mentioned it multiple times, but we have firefighters and paramedics and EMTs and police officers and military guys. All those get a lot of attention, but what y'all do really doesn't get a lot. And then doctors, they get a lot of attention. And I'm sure there'll be a doctor, and I have some friends that are doctors that they will probably not like this comment, but honestly, they're not there for the hard times. And there's RNs and even more than that, technicians that are there for some of the hardest things that I went through.
Yeah.
There's a couple of those that are very special to me. And to round back around, all I'm saying is there's a lot of unsung heroes in what y'all do, and I want to raise that awareness as well. And I think raising the awareness of stroke and TBI and concussion, concussion's been one of those things that people blow past. They have. It's just now becoming something that's people are becoming really aware of that there's problems with it. But I mean, how many people had to be murdered or die or get, I mean, how many of those things had to happen before they're like, oh, hey.
Yeah.
Because there are brain cells dying whenever this is happening.
Right.
Right. And I'm sure for y'all, you were like, that's for sure happening. So, we raise awareness, keep it going, and hopefully keep pushing it forward. I mean, this AI stuff, I'm not a proponent of AI, but I've been reading what they're doing with it and the movements that stuff that they're doing with the body for stroke victims, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, just crazy.
Don't know what's out there. Yeah.
That's very true.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, we're kind of getting close to wrapping up. So one of my last questions was there anything that y'all would like to touch on that we haven't talked about that our listeners may need to hear that are struggling and need some motivation? I mean, is there something we haven't talked about that you can think of, or something special to y'all?
As far as motivation goes, I I feel like I always tell my patients to keep going, to not stop. You can take a pause, right, where you're at, but don't stop. Don't go backwards. Because I think, again, you get in that mentality of you just kept doing the same thing and you're not seeing big leaps. And like we said, to celebrate the little things, because the little things add up to the big things. And just, if you're in therapy or anything of that nature, be open with people. Because I think there's something to be said about vulnerability. Because if I know where you're at, then I can meet you there. You know what I mean? Like if I don't have that open line of communication and trust, then it's hard to get you where you need to be. But I'd say we're your biggest fans. We're your biggest cheerleaders. Like that's why we chose this job. My coworkers always kind of make fun of me because they can hear my laugh like all the way down the hall. I mean, like all the way down the hall. And I'm like, I won't apologize for that because it is making somebody smile.
Yes, it is contagious.
It is bringing joy to people. And like I did a leadership development course through Baylor, and we had to make a mission statement. And so I chose mine was choosing joy while selflessly serving others. So every day that somebody comes in, I'm giving you a little bit of joy today. And just being open to the process, but keep going is the most important thing.
And I feel like you were vulnerable in the same token with me on a lot of levels. I mean, that we did a lot of laughing together too, at ourselves.
Yes.
And, each other. I mean, it was a kind of a constant daily thing, was giving each other a hard time at one point. It didn't start that way, but it did end that way.
It did, yeah.
Mine would be, I always tell patients, especially after stroke or brain injury, you're going to be your biggest critic. You're going to have that bar that you set that you want to be at, and you're going to try to give yourself a timeline, and that's not fair. Because you had something happen to you out of your control. You had a stroke, you had a brain injury, you have a neurodegenerative disease. Yeah. So for every negative comment you say about yourself, I want you to think of a positive comment to counter it. I love that. What is that one video of that 4-year-old girl that looks in the mirror and she's like, I'm awesome, I'm great, I'm amazing. And she just does all of these verbal affirmations.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
In the mirror in the morning, and it's, she's feeling herself, feeling great about herself, and she's making other people like, this is adorable. I think adults can do that too, right? You're like, you're gonna own it.
I need to do that.
Yes,
That would go viral. It would for me.
It's like, you're amazing.
Please send that to me. I promise I won't put it on any social media.
I'll say wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
But I think that internal motivation is big too, because I think it's okay to grieve certain things, right? You go through, they don't call it 7 stages of grief for nothing. And it doesn't happen with just death, it happens with any life change.
But it's not in a line.
It's not linear.
Yeah.
People go through the different phases. There are different amount of times that you sort in each phase. Do you ever get out of it? Do you get stuck in it? I think it's good to acknowledge it, but having those positive thoughts is just as beneficial as having some of those negative thoughts too. Hi, baby. But yeah.
No, that's good. Thank you for adding that. I think that's good for everybody to know. And I really, we're talking about a lot of neuro things, but that goes for life.
It's absolutely life.
Yeah.
100%.
Love the small things. Enjoy life. We get the shot at it. It can be really cool. Even in the face of adversity.
Exactly.
And that whole what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I do believe that very much.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because I did die in one way or another.
Yeah.
I'm a totally different person, I think, for the most part.
Sure, yeah.
I still got things, just like everybody.
Oh, yeah.
I got to work through. So, well, that was it. I think we did really good. I so appreciate y'all coming out.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Super awesome.
Anytime.
And if y'all ever want to come back out.
Part 2.
Take 62.
Yeah.
Bye.
if you ever want to come out and do it again, just let me know. And if something comes up, it's like a new deal, and you're like, hey, we got to talk about that. People need to know about this. And
fair enough, yeah.
let me know, and we'll do it. And then
Excellent.
maybe I'll be able to go to a concert again someday, and we can all go together.
Man, we're concert
You
junkies.
will be.
I know. Well, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Until next time.